This won't make me sound any louder, but it'll mean I'm recorded. So the other people in the Village Vision Planning Committee who are here: Jim Ramsey, Megan Walker, Diane Cornish, and Diane Dunsmore-Farley. Diane with an I and Diane with a Y, as we refer to them. And I've probably missed somebody else. Steve Earle is in the back. Anyway, this is a 2-year process that's led to this point. We've had a number of workshops. Dave Whitty from Vancouver Island University will explain the process a little bit more in the slides. Then the students will go through 4 presentations, maximum 10 minutes each, and then we yank them off the hook. And then we'll adjourn outside to look at the plans that they've come up with and offer opportunities for interaction. I want to say thank you to all of our sponsors, because putting on this 3-day workshop and keeping everybody fed and watered means about a $3,000 budget, and we've got no organizational support for this, so we're raising it, I don't know, grassroots. So there's a list of donors in the back, but I particularly want to thank Sheila Malcolmson as the MP, who started with offering some funding, and that allowed us to get other people involved, like the RDN, and I know, Howard, I saw you coming in, thank you very much. The local trust committee, both trustees are here, thank you very much. 3 of the restaurants, Village Foods, Red Rooster, etc. And of course, Vancouver Island University has been contributing lots of cost in terms of travel and so forth and so on. So, without further ado, I'd like to pass the mic to Sheila Malcolmson, our MP, who's been gracious enough to sponsor tonight.
Thank you, John. So I'm Sheila Malcolmson. I'm your Member of Parliament. I want to say a couple things just about the process tonight. My education was in environmental and resource studies, and I wanted to change the world, but I didn't know that planning existed as a career. And I know there's tons of people who are way ahead of the curve who are in the room now. So when I was encouraged, thank you community, to run for Islands trustee in 2002, like a lot of things, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and immediately fell in love with all these amazing planners who knew how to compartmentalize, how to analyze, how to advise. And a bunch of them are in the room too. The Islands Trust, both constituents but the planners, just taught me so much during the 12 years I was a trustee. And now that I'm representing this whole region, now I'm really in love with Vancouver Island University. My favorite thing to do is stand up in Parliament and brag about what's happening in this region. Every time I'm up on campus, or almost actually most community events in Nanaimo, I bump into planning students who are redesigning the downtown Nanaimo, who are thinking about how to make Nickel Street walkable. They talk about Pam Shaw all the time. And just on Saturday, I was talking to students from Belize who were explaining to me how marine zoning planning that Belize has already got all worked out, how they're really going to put us into shape here in the Salish Sea and bring in an ecologically focused approach to how resources travel through our region. So I'm just tremendously grateful for the planning students and for the vision of Pam and David for bringing all this help to our community. Other thing I really learned from the Islands Trust is, holy smokes, jurisdictional barriers. Just so many times we ended up giving people, little constitutional lessons about, the RDN does your garbage, and, it's just like, oh, who wants to hear that? So, especially in a rural island community where we don't have all the authorities, we don't have the budget, it just relies so much on grassroots taking the initiative, like this amazing team here has. 2 years of work to get us to this point, and I really applaud the Village Vision Planning Committee for getting us here. But also the people that are involved at every level of government who are committed to working together, to working collectively, to finding solutions to the challenges that, if we can nail them here in these island communities, whether it's parking and mobility in an aging population, and water scarcity and climate change, and how to support our farmers. What we can learn in an island environment here I'll stand up in Parliament and brag about that next and hope it has an impact on the rest of the country. So with a great thanks to the organizers for inviting me to be involved, and really looking forward to hearing what the students and community members have cooked up with us. I'm really proud of everybody's work, and I'm really honored to be here. Thanks. And over to Dave.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. What I'm going to do is something we do traditionally at VIU, and that is to honor that we're on the Snuneymuxw traditional territory. And in their language, I squeal, I wanna see alam nam mau. So I'm pleased to see you here tonight to join us. Just a little bit about, before we get into the presentation itself. I have the privilege of being one of the profs in the planning program. I am the senior vice president at Vancouver Island University as well, and there aren't too many people who are the provosts who actually teach. I may be one of the only ones in the country, actually, but we do it because we firmly believe in students and student success, and we think we're setting a model example for many other universities in the country. And in terms of a planning program, our focus is on applied, really what we call learning by doing. And so in a lot of programs, there's a lot of time spent with books, studying theory, studying theory, studying theory. Well, we study theory, but we also go out into the communities and apply the theory. So our first year students have just joined us here with Pam. Pam Shaw over here, raise your hand. Dr. Pam Shaw. Pam is the director of our program. And she took the first-year students to Lanceville, where they did a design charrette. And the second-year students, and our second-year students were first-year students last year, obviously, but they were the first-year students we ever had. So our program is just now into its second year. And last year, their first week, they went to Lanceville. And they've come a long way in a year. And Ross Blackwell, please step forward. Ross, a colleague, teaching colleague. And he spent the last couple of days here assisting in as we undertake our process and produce some design product. Just bear with me here. I just want to. There's a couple of other things I did want to say, of course, and that is the other thing is that what we firmly believe in is at VIU is the importance of community engagement. And I would say that compared to any other university, we are full on in what you're going to see today, what Lanceville saw today as well, and through many of our programs, and certainly in the planning program, we are heavily engaged in community. And through that, we're contributing back to the region that where we're rooted. We're very much a regional-focused university, and our research tends to be applied research that people can use in community. So just if you don't know that, you do now, and I urge you to certainly, if you have interest, get a hold of us, and we're always keen to have conversation. And then lastly, we couldn't have done this today without your visioning committee, and so Megan, who's also a student and a rock star organizer. Megan, great job. Thank you. And then, of course, John mentioned the committee, and they were absolutely instrumental in helping us. They provided advice to the students. And then the last thing I'll say is this, and when I was introduced Wednesday, I am an islander. So my family's from Manitoulin Island, the largest freshwater island in the world, 23 years on Bowen. Now I'm on the Big Island for the last 6. So the island living's in my blood. I've consulted on the islands. I've consulted across Canada, actually, but also had some fun on the islands here as well. So I get islands, and I did wait for the ferry to unload because that's what we did on Bowen out of respect, right? So I get that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do an overview of the process and kind of how we got to today, and then that will be followed by PowerPoint presentations from 4 teams. And I'll describe the 4 teams in a bit. And then we're going to go outside, and look at more detailed drawings. And we did that because we knew there'd be a lot of people. If we tried to put the drawings up in here, it would be chaos and loud, and you really wouldn't have a chance to see them. So this way they're spread along that far wall of the Aggie building. And there's also, if you turn around after looking at the drawings, there's flip charts where you can write down something you liked or something you didn't like. Okay, so we're interested, and I know, and the committee is very interested in hearing your comments. All right, so we'll rock and roll. Yeah. Now, you want me to use this while I do this, right? Is that what I'm going to do? Okay, so I'm going to unfortunately have to turn my back as I did the other night. All right, so here we are. So here's tonight's agenda. Now, am I in the way of anybody? No. Overview of work that informed the workshop, so that's what I'm going to do. And then there are going to be team presentations, but it's a two-step process, little dance here. So they're first going to provide an overview of each team's concept. Now, bear with me on this one. I'm going to jump. And then we're going to have closing comments, but they're not really closing comments totally, because we're going to go outside and look at have a detailed engagement with each team. All right, so does that make sense? All right, so we're doing a two-step dance here. So we actually will have closing comments in here, but that doesn't mean go home. It means go outside and have some more engagement. Okay? So there were some key building blocks that brought us to today. Clearly, the village sounds like a song. The Village Vision Planning Committee was absolutely instrumental in everything that we're doing here. So they held 6 community meetings, did outreach polls. You can see some of the output of those conversations. Anybody who knows me, I'm a junkie at these flow charts. So there was the creation of the committee. And fundamentally, it was Sustainable Gabriola and Gabriola Chamber of Commerce that were instrumental in that. The committee undertook those 6 workshops, and on the left, one was land use, one was housing, one was water in and water out. Then there was a broader one that just was people catching up, and then a conversation around village byways and people places. There was also the outreach polls I mentioned, and out of that, then Megan was able to produce a vision statement, which is on the back wall, and guiding principles, and they're in the back wall as well, and I'm going to just talk about those in a minute. And the ones in yellow, she also undertook a character preference survey, and out of that then we were able to do our visioning workshop because all that front end work had been done in the community. So the core guiding principles, I like to begin at the beginning and never assume anything. So some of you that were here last night have seen this, but or was it the night before? I've lost track. I guess it was Wednesday night. She identified experiential principles, functional principles, and social principles. So under experiential, a place that charms. So we're looking. So that gives us direction as people coming from off island to get, these are very key to us to get a sense of what's really important. So a place that charms, a place of ease, a healthy place, a sustainable place, a complete place, a social place, and then a place of meaning, an inclusive place, and a sociable place. And then out of that, a great village place. So that's what we're aiming for. Megan also undertook an image preference survey, and that was really helpful because it really did tell us the sorts of things that you like and the sorts of things you don't like. I'm not going to review that now, but Wednesday night I actually went through that, and so that we could all see and get some direction from it. So here's the visioning workshop. There's John telling us about, I think that one was water in and water out, if I recall. Or, no? What? He was giving instruction to our students. So the first day was basically a day of discovering, walking about, hearing presentations, reviewing materials, hearing from Sonia at Islands Trust office. Second day, which is yesterday, was really evaluating, starting to put those thoughts in some form of concepts, but really evaluating. And today was really finalizing those thoughts into plans that are outside. In terms of community input, we had Wednesday night, we had an overview of what we're up to. I did a presentation on rural village planning. We had a session on ideas, and they're up in the back wall up there. I'll show you an example in a minute. And And then Thursday we had comments on the preliminary work. Last night people dropped in for an hour and gave some of their thoughts. These are the words that are up top there, but certainly they were up for the 2 days and gave us a chance to reflect. And that was last night. Okay, so Steve, I'm going to need your help here. Just in a sec. So there's 4 teams, 4 design briefs. Team A, and so when you go outside, it's A, B, C, D, right? A starts at this end. And their task was to look at existing village area regulations. B was to look at existing village area regulations and OCP supported work, so designated parcels, that sort of thing. C, the design brief basically was take a look at the village boundary and make some comment on perhaps where should it be and should it change and what might that look like. And then the team D has open concept, go crazy. And actually I don't think they went crazy, they did a good job, but you'll see the moving through. And the idea there, and I thought it was quite brilliant, is that people then, often what happens, there's one design brief and everybody studies the same thing with the same expected output. So the outputs tend to be similar. They're a bit different, but not entirely. In this instance, we have very clear 4 distinct different design briefs. So you're going to see some similarity that runs through, because if you listen to the community, there better be some similarity, right? Connectivity, for instance, is one. But there's some uniqueness in some of them. So we're going to call up Team A next, please.
Okay, everybody, thank you for coming tonight. My name is Sadie. Behind me here is Banaf Shah, and then Graham was also in our group, but he unfortunately had to catch a ferry somewhere just not long ago. So we are Design Team A, which the scope is framed by adherence to the existing village area regulations, and our task specifically was to develop design concepts for the future of the village based on the guiding vision and principles, as well as work within the existing land use and density zoning regulations and applicable development permit guidelines. So we started off with a SWOT analysis. So our group brainstormed, and together we came up with some basic human needs, as well as addressed strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that we felt the Gabriola Village course has now. And then we based our own design principles off of addressing those opportunities and threats. So our design principles are, as we go through the slides, each design principle is going to have its own slide, and we'll go through how we wish to address that, or we suggest to address that. So firstly, to be inclusive and active, intuitive and connected, have diverse multifunctional spaces, celebrate the natural environment, maintain the rural character that currently exists, and promote sustainability and visit our integrated resource management plan. So this is a visual of our final design concept. On the left is where the agricultural hall is now. The 2 blue squares is this property. We suggest the visitor center go there to sort of be the opening to the village, as well as an exhibit space so that the arts center or the museum could host events there, exhibits, and another way to greet newcomers to the community or tourists. And then we also do suggest bringing commercial closer to the road to be more pedestrian friendly, and parking in behind for more visual appeal. You can see the main pedestrian trail going we suggest from the ferry all the way through the town down to about where Tin Can Alley is. You can see some yellow on the roofs of the commercial space. We suggest that each of the lots have a residential unit that can be affordable or whatever works for needs at the time. And then as you make your way down across, there are 2 residential lots that we suggest, since we are restrained by the zoning, we can't change that zoning, we suggested having residential properties with a live-work opportunity. So having storefronts, but still having the owner of the lot or a renter live in that building as well. Make our way down, we had a lot of positive feedback about the roundabout. We decided to keep that there for traffic slowing, and to just slow everything down so that the pedestrian feels very comfortable in that area. And then what we consider the heart of the village is where the folk life village is now. So we wanted to open up the interior section there, remove the parking, so that way it can be a pedestrian-centered area. Lots of opportunities for interaction in there. And then as we make our way down, the final major change, in addition to a community center in behind the Folklife Village, is having the agricultural hall put in the commons. So next, Banafshah is going to go through our principles and discuss how we're going to address those.
Thank you. So, based on the principles Sadie described, the first principle is inclusive and active areas. So, for that, we have included the pedestrian trail, that is the pedestrian pathway leading from the ferry towards Tin Can Alley, which will connect further onto the 707 trail, or can also connect towards the South Road and come back. The next one is intuitive and connective spaces. So for that, the roundabout is created for the purpose of traffic calming and slowing the traffic down at the Folklife Village. The section on the right suggests it's the road and the trail, and we have got the storefront towards the road and push the parking behind, so there's some sort of connectivity between all the activities taking place on the street. The village gateway, we sort of eliminated the road, which is the one way leading towards the ferry, and created one common road for the purpose. And the storefront and the post office on this side have these natural features where people can have, where the community can gather. It can be a gathering space, or you can have an afternoon summer lunch out there. Having diverse multifunctional spaces, for that we included amphitheater at the Folklife Village. We have removed the parking space on the side and have natural featured seating areas where there can be performances and also some sort of art or mural on the wall of the structure. The community center is proposed behind the Folklife Village, having the wetland or pond area which exists now, enhancing natural features again, and also making it a community space which can be used for different purposes. The celebration of natural environment, again with enhancing natural features like amphitheater seating or the pedestrian trail, which can be accessible by all levels of users. Maintaining the rural character of the village, especially on the North Road, since that is our main focus here. We have wildlife corridors, again the village gateway, and the bottom picture is the West Coast style structure which we have proposed for the work and live area.
So for this addressing sustainability and integrated resource management plan, this is sort of an overlay. The blue there is irrigation service area, which is through collected rainwater. So what we would call this is a clustered on-site wastewater management system throughout the village core. So treatment and discharge would be managed centrally by the commercial businesses, as well as used for irrigation to keep the main pedestrian trail green and have those trees grow nice and big. We would also have increased permeable surfaces and less pavement in the village core, the Folklife Village, as well as the commercial businesses on North Road. We would have a biosolids treatment plant in the forestry lands, so quite a ways in behind those commercial areas there. And we would hope that that could be used for fertilizers on forestry land as opposed to trucking biosolids off the island. Green roofs is also something that we think is a good opportunity, and if Gabriel identifies and feels that this is a really good way to go in terms of sustainability, the technology can be showcased at the tourism center at the entrance to the village. Okay, to the next one. So thank you very much for listening to our presentation.
Okay, so we are Team B. I'm Megan, Taylor, and Tanisha. We had a fourth team member, Kyle, who had to leave early today. So we're gonna, okay, that'll work. That'll work. It's my laser pointer. We got a little more freedom to work with. So we're working with the existing zoning regulations, but we're also looking at rezoning that is supported by the official community plan. So you'll see some of those ideas in our concepts. So our concepts is based again on the guiding vision and principles that came forward out of the Village Vision workshops, and then working within those constraints. Just click it. So our first step was to go through a site analysis exercise. So we did do a series of site analysis maps, which are up on the wall over there. You're welcome to take a look. I just wanted to highlight this one because I think it's the most telling. So what this is a version of a figure ground. So we're looking at just the buildings, landscape area, car area, which is the orange, and then people space. And you think it really highlights how very little people space there is in the village. Next. So what we did next is we also did a SWOT analysis, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We looked at each of the principles that have been developed by the Village Vision Group and did that SWOT analysis looking at each of those. So that started to give us a real rich understanding of analysis of the existing village and how well we do against the principles. So that's just a second version of that. So what we learned from that, we brought forward into a goal-setting exercise. So for each of the principles, we set out a series of goals. I'll just highlight some of the big ones. So under a place that charms, we wanted to create a series of postcard pedestrian experiences. So really elevate design and really have a lot of sort of postcard moments throughout the village. Creating or enhancing, we have a unique identity, but enhancing that. This is a big one. Safe, universally accessible network of pedestrian paths linking all village amenities. And another concept of park once and then walk. So what does it mean to get people out of their cars instead of driving from one mall to another? A sustainable place, that one's huge. So obviously you can come up with all kinds of wonderful ideas, but if we don't have the water or the septic approach, then it's just not a sustainable way to go. So trying to think about strategies to make that happen. We ended up looking at an eco-village for many of these different types of principles, so that's something that you'll see in our plan. Any other ones? Oh, of course, the big one. It came up again and again at every single workshop, the need for a heart, a real central gathering place for the island. So that's something that we brought forward into our plan. You can switch it. So I'm just going to go and highlight some of the big ideas. This is our sort of contextual concept plan. Some of the big ideas are rerouting ferry traffic off of Taylor Bay Road and bringing it up North Road. Safer approach, integrating pedestrian facilities as well as bikes, and then there's it helps to energize the village by you park your car in the lineup and then you can walk over and get a coffee or do some shopping. Some of the other big ideas, we also looked at, since this building is going away, we thought it would be great to relocate the market into a central heart, our hub, and again, use this site for a visitor center. And we thought it would be great to combine that with relocating the Islands Trust and including a eco-education center. So all three of those things together, sort of introducing people to the islands. What is the Islands Trust? What is it all about? And that starts to form our gateway. Our other big idea was the Lochinvar Triangle and integrating affordable rental housing, which is supported by the OCP, and making those real eco-villages. Some other concepts is development of that second phase of Folklife Village, We don't think the island needs much more retail, so focusing that area more on offices or artist studios or maker spaces, that kind of thing. Other big ideas, relocating MCON. They own all this property, but move them farther up and include a recreation facility that's closer to the road, and again, sort of activating that portion of North Road. So we really wanted to focus the attention or vibrancy of the village between here, and that really becoming a special sort of Main Street section. One last concept to highlight here is the need for a hospice facility or respite care facility, so integrating that up near the clinic. Next one. So we then zoomed in and did a more detailed concept for that central core area. I'm not going to go through all of the ideas that are in here because there's a lot, but we do have that posted outside, and we'd be happy to go through some of these concepts in detail with you outside. Yeah. Thank you.
So we started with a SWOT analysis, like the other groups, and through identifying the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, we really started to see that there were 3 groups that developed and became our key considerations, which were sense of place, housing and density, and water servicing. Once we related these back to the core principles and layers of experiential and social and personal, we really started to see that there were 2 significant ideas that started to emerge. First, rather than defining a boundary, we were recognizing a village environment, a place that connects the island to its heart. And second, an element of innovation should be applied in every approach throughout this vision. And with that, we were able to establish 6 guiding principles. The first of which is that a complete village is a place for the environment and people to interrelate and connect with ease. The village environment is meant to connect the island to its heart. It provides a place for positive social experiences. It reflects rural values and cultural aspects of place. It should be inspirational, organic, and it gives opportunity for personal expression. And lastly, it provides legitimate sense of place that is accessible and inclusive through physical expression. Now, Deanna is going to talk to you about land use.
Our assessment has led us to organize the inner heart of the village in the change to the existing use. This can be seen in the concept plan. Our assessment and the land use change allow us to explore the design, including the cottage and the co-housing and the plaza. And the county will discuss the environment.
I'll take the pointer too, just in case.
So this is the village boundary or environ, as Stephanie has explained. And what we found was that there was a heart of the village and that there was also an outer skirt. So there's the inner heart, the outer skirt with this feathered edge that takes you out to gyro. And it takes you and transitions to the rural space beyond. And with looking at how that boundary works, we zoomed in on the heart of the village. And just to give you a quick walk through, we started at the ferry with a gateway presence there and a pavilion type of gateway, and at the other end, a gyro, fringe gateway. So that on both ends you get the experience of entering into a place, a special place. And you can see the Madrona buildings here, and our idea was to have a pavilion or some sort of symbol in the shape of a built form at the entrance to let you know that you've arrived in the heart of Gabriola, because at the moment you look at the back of the building and you have to sort of crane your neck to see what's happening there. But one of the big moves that we've made at the gateway as well, because we had the ability to, in our task, was move North Road. So this becomes, so this actually becomes a complete pedestrian experience rather than a road that's turned onto. And we moved North Road to this location to carry through. So now you have this opportunity to have the pedestrian experience look down through that space as you drive into the village and see pedestrians and storefronts moved closer, changing that 6-meter setback on that road to the edge of the road and activating that space, allowing bistro seating, pedestrian walking, bicycling in the trailway to take you to gyro as well. And then opportunities to take roads into the heart and to slowly go to the parking at the back of that building if you need to, through this winding shared space with pedestrians and vehicles and bicycles and multimodal experiences. Or also then just go to all the way up South Road to Lochinvar and then to the roundabout and off to your destination. So that was a really big move for us, and we identified this heart and then the outer fringe as well. So you get these really strong sense when you come in at Gyro and Gateway there, and then you come and there's a different sort of rhythm to how that street works. You go by the school and there's everything that a village should have and that you need, and then you get to the heart where all of the activity and buzzing is going on. We've also included a lot of design elements that we'll look at closer outside, but that is the idea behind here. We did have the freedom to do some changes to the land use, which Guidan was discussing, and through density transfers and the density bank and some alternatives to that, we came up with the idea of having cluster housing, an agrarian village, a central heart and community center, assisted and care living, and also some work-live space so that there's all sorts of people living, working, and playing, enjoying themselves in the downtown heart here. So this is just a quick concept sketch of what it would look like looking to South Road. So you're looking at the traffic going up the road, and this is the pedestrian experience on what was North Road. So now, now you have people walking, bicycles going. This is the trailway that takes you to Gyro. And then coming up the hill on South Road, as you come from the ferry, you have this pavilion space open and bright and warm and glowing at night. That you look into rather than the back of the building and this hole that's there now. And then supplementing that is some sort of public art in the plaza coming in. We call it the Plaza Green. You'll see it on the plan when we go outside. And then there's a couple of sections as well. So this is looking from the Market Garden, where we are now, basically, with Agri Hall moving to the Commons, and looking across South Road. There's trails and bicycle lanes and the Madrona building, parking behind, and rain gardens and water and storm management throughout on all of the site, including some reservoirs and cisterns and reuse as well. That's okay. Yeah. So thank you very much.
Hello everyone, thanks for being here and for the community for inviting us to this project. It's been a really great experience. We're Team D, open exploration, so we had all the fun in creating our design. But really over the past 3 days it has been a lot of fun. We've been working really hard, expanding our minds and the possibilities of how Gabriola can be developed and how this development can best represent the needs of the community. Our redesign is titled The Village Vision, and our team includes Darren, Rushi, Ted, and myself, Devin. So we'll start off with Darren to discuss the influences of our design.
So first we wanted to identify and protect Gabriola Island's natural habitat and ecosystems. We discovered that in the south of the Commons there's a fairly substantial wetland area. Gabriola Island's natural element is a gem of our province. So we decided to celebrate this in the Village Vision. In addition to the wetlands, Gabrielans have already informed the design process of where the hub of activity is. This has been defined as the center of the community. We felt that it was necessary to emphasize that. In addition to that, the commercial spaces that radiate from the center, which is just a kitty corner from the Folklive Village and the Co-op Gas there, the commercial centers that radiate from this center, they work. They're a fantastic example of what to reflect upon when considering growth in the community. So from here, we came up with our 4 guiding principles. First, the meeting place, celebration of Gabriel Island's character, connectivity, and the integration of blue and green belts. This concept reflects the characteristics of the community while securing a connection to the core. It is from here that we linked gathering spaces that celebrate nature and our island's way of life. As a result, we have identified a few key ideas of how the space around the center can be reimagined.
So the first key aspect of our design is the meeting place. The meeting place is the social hub of our design, represented by 2 main community gathering spaces, or the concentric circles that you can see there. There's also a defined corridor connecting the 2 spaces, which will be used for a variety of activities and programming, such as the farmers market, that will truly animate the space. This meeting place offers the community a central space to create and share, and is alive, vibrant, and is a magnet for people at all hours. The second aspect of our design was the adaptive land uses. So a big part of our design, as expressed in our guiding principles, is to celebrate Gabriola Island's character. This is expressed in the land uses we chose, which are broad and inclusive. This will allow the urban form to promote and celebrate Gabriola's unique culture and character. Some of these uses include playing, to grow, community, and music. Next, Rishi will talk about the circulation of our design.
Hello everyone. So I'll just brief you on circulation. So why circulation? Because we believe any community can be defined by its road network and circulation. So we have introduced the fluid connections all around the site, which as you can see on the map, which we term as the Gabriola Heart in the center. There are bike paths extending all the way until Gabriola Ferry on the topmost part on the left, extending to Lochinver Road from North Road and taking a loop back from the South Road and connecting back to the North Road. So by introducing the bikeways, we want to make streets more pedestrian friendly and promote the walking. So bike paths along with the pedestrian walk paths are served on both sides of the road and less cars on the main road. In the interior of the site, in the Gabriola Heart, as you can see, there are several walking trails parallel and perpendicular to each other, giving a sense of better connections with nature. In the second slide, I will brief you on the wildlife corridor. So we have introduced a wildlife corridor in the Gabriola's Heart, which we term in the site. So in this corridor, we have planned a walking trail, playground for children and seniors to relax, and passage for animals to connect themselves to nature. The corridor extends on the south road, and on the north, it extends to until the Gabriola Commons, bisecting Lochinver Road. There's a section which you can see outside as you will go on the outside. Also, there is a residential area in the site for which it will act as a buffer against the meeting place at the center of the site. The corridor will serve as a passage for humans as well as for wildlife. How will it help Gabriola? So by serving natural space, helping ecosystem wander around, taking us a step ahead to amalgamate with nature. And on the next slide, Ted will guide you.
So we did the village corridor, but this is current north road. And actually we didn't make it narrow, and we added 2 bike lanes in each side, both sides. And for the it's mixed green because save the gas and reduce the pollution. And by the way, riding is good for the health. And the trees in the middle and both sides, it looks like the traffic to be slowed down, and it's more safety. And for the current pedestrian, I think it's not pedestrian, it's almost no sidewalk. So it's so terrible. So we need a new sidewalk, and in the right side, you see that we did a patio front of the retail and the restaurant. And that makes the connection and activities between the sidewalk to the commercial. And the next one is the curb. It's very small on the right of the tree in the corner. It's a sidewalk curb. We did a small slope because it's easy for the senior and the who with a wheelchair. It's easy to pass a sidewalk. And the last one is for the left side. There is a parking and the slope. We call that area is animated space because in the future it may be good for some design and the art show something. So for next, yeah, we did the senior living. You can see the picture is we show is like the affordable house, community center, and that is the palliative care for the senior. And even though it's one more affordable house in up to. And on the both sides is the grow. We call grow is because it's a community garden or the farm. People maybe feel boring, we can grow the food and just do something for the boring time. And in the middle, it's a good trail to pass to. It's directed to the village center, so it's called affordable house. So people, it's low rent. And if you can work in the village center, you don't need to drive the car. You just work there. And one more thing is, yeah, it's close to the nature. You see the wildlife and the green space. And in the corner of the picture, it shows people can just touch the green space. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
So I've been given the very nice task of thanking people that have contributed to this effort. It's been great, the number of people that have contributed. I have to write it all down because there's so many. But I first want to recognize the students in the Masters in Community Planning program at BIU, the second-year students who devoted to this. Already. They have been amazing. They came here on Wednesday morning and they've been working pretty much non-stop since then. They have managed to get themselves into a rural kid space, which for some of them isn't easy. Some of them come from cities of populations of many millions, and figuring out how to make things work on a small island like this is not easy, but they've done, as you can see, an amazing job of capturing what we are. So thanks to them. Thanks also, of course, to Dave. Where'd he go? There he is. Who volunteered to come and run this. As he said, he's the vice president academic, and I know vice president academics are really busy people. I've tried to get meetings with them before. You can't. And so Dave has come over here for 3 solid days, and he's been on his phone a little bit, but he's dedicated his time to this, so I really want to thank Dave for doing that, because he has a massive amount of experience in this. I also want to thank Pam in the back corner there, because it was Pam who originally agreed that we should do this through the Masters of the Community Planning, so thank you, Pam. And also Ross, where'd he go? There he is in the back hiding again, who's been here for a good part of the time. There's a whole bunch of people that helped financially, and they're listed up there, and I won't go through them again. I also want to thank the Islands Trust, Sonia and Alex and Heather and Melanie. They're all there together. For their contributions to this process, for their putting their faith in what we're doing here, and also they helped out with one of the meals. That was great. I want to thank Howard over there from the regional district for supporting what we do and also giving us a meal. I want to thank, where'd you go? No? Sheila, there she is, for coming and helping out. And I want to thank the rest of the members of the committee. They've all been named already, so I don't need to go through that again. But this has been a wonderful, still is a wonderful committee to work on, and the other people that have worked with me are amazing. But last of all, I want to thank you, all the people sitting down here, for coming and for supporting what we do and being interested in this process and in the future of this funny little village that we have here, and seeing what it might become, because we think this is really cool. So, thank you. So don't forget, right now, we're going to all head outside around the back here to look at the plans in detail. You are asked to talk to the students, that will all be there, and to write down some comments and so on. Tell them what you think is good, what you think is maybe not so good. That'd be great. Thank you.
Come back here at what time?
No, we're not going to come back here at all. There's coffee there if you want, and there might be a few cookies left. But we're going to go outside, and then eventually it's going to get dark, and